Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're not just looking at code, we're kind of digging into a decades-long incident review.
Right. Taking something that looks like dry regulation, this specific LA ordinance.
Exactly. And we're translating it, turning it into, well, life or death operational intel, this whole deep dive. It's about the story trapped inside a single wooden door.
Mm-hmm.
So picture this. You're Proby Reyes. Engine 10 is absolutely screaming, lights and siren, heading deep into Central Bureau. Fully involved job, historic apartment building, smoke boiling into the sky.
That feeling, right. First big one. The noise, the smoke. It's intense.
Yeah.
Overwhelming, probably.
Totally. The engine slams to a halt. And the captain, he doesn't waste a second. He points through the windshield. There's a row of apartment doors. They look old, heavy, blackened from smog maybe, but solid.
Just ordinary doors, you'd think.
Yeah, but the captain leans over, cuts right through the noise, the sound of the fire already building, and he yells...
What does he say?
He says, Reyes, you see those doors? They're the first chapter of a story written in blood and fire. If they hold, we have a chance. If they don't...
We've instantly lost the structure and gained a nightmare.
Wow. Heavy stuff for a Proby.
Right. He finishes, we need to know what we're about to breach.
And that right there, that's the core of it. The captain is laying it out. For Reyes, and, well, for you listening, your life, your crew's lives, the civilians trapped inside, it all hinges on understanding that door.
Not just any door. That specific type of door in that specific type of building?
Exactly. It's history, it's design secrets. This isn't just like background reading. It dictates everything. How you attack, where you stage, the risks you take.
So we need to unpack that phrase. A story written in blood and fire. What does it actually mean when you're standing there, helmet on, ready to go in?
It means you got to know the why. Which tragedy forced this door into existence? What specific failure point is it designed to prevent? That's what we're digging into today, the origin story of the Ponet Door. Okay, let's start the investigation. Because every piece of safety gear, every regulation like this, it starts with something going terribly wrong.
Always. Usually multiple times before the lesson sticks.
And this one, yeah, it gets really interesting. We go back to downtown Los Angeles. Sunday morning, September 13th, 1970, the Ponet Square Hotel.
Ponet Square, not exactly a household name today, maybe.
No, but it was typical for its time, built around 1910, 4 stories, apartment hotel style. But the construction, that's key.
Old school, right. Wood studs inside, plaster on wood lath, combustible.
Very. And the layout, the ground floor was huge, like 12,000 square feet, took up almost the whole lot, except for this tiny little areaway in the back.
Well, already you're seeing limited egress, maybe? And the materials. By today's standards, it's kind of terrifying. A ticking time bomb, really.
And the fuse got lit. Fire starts in a linen room, small, off the lobby. But the real problem wasn't the start, it was the spread.
Right. This is crucial. Visualize the building's guts, the way people moved around. The entrance, the lobby, then the elevator shaft and the main stairs. Critically, they were basically open.
No fire doors, no separation.
Not like we expect today. They were just open vertical shafts. Perfect chimneys waiting for a fire.
And when that fire hit the lobby, boom. Instantaneous disaster because of those open shafts. Investigators figured out exactly how fast it moved.
Get this. The main stairwell acted like a perfect flue. It created this massive upward draft. Flames shot upwards at something like 5 feet per second.
5 feet per second. Think about that. Your main way out. It's an inferno in seconds. Just gone.
And it wasn't just straight up. The heat buildup in that stairwell was so intense, it actually backdrafted. Pushed fire and superheated gases down the hallways on each floor landing.
So even if you weren't directly above the fire?
You were still in deep trouble. We're not talking just smoke here. We're talking temperatures hitting up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit in those hallways.
2,000 degrees? That's like a wildfire. Inside a building.
Exactly. Like a mountain firestorm, but trapped in a narrow corridor. Unsurvivable.
And the reports from that day, they detail the horrific choices people faced. The hallway's gone, the stairs are gone, you're trapped in your room.
And the rooms are heating up fast, turning into ovens. Witnesses said temps inside rooms hit 400 degrees quickly. So what do?
Jump from the upper floors? Or bake? People were tying sheets together, trying desperate escapes.
Just unimaginable.
The final toll was horrific. 19 people died. And it took demolition crews a whole week just to recover the last victims from the wreckage.
A full week. That tells you the scale of the destruction.
And the lesson, the one burned into the city's memory and the LAFD's procedures, was crystal clear. The fatal flaw, total lack of compartmentalization.
The building's own escape routes became the instruments of death. The hallways, the stairwells, death traps.
Which forces the question, right? Was Ponet Square just a freak accidental one-off?
Sadly, no.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It wasn't isolated at all. It was just the kind of the latest and maybe the worst example in a pattern.
Yeah. You look back, there were other big hotel fires. Hotel St. George back in '52.
Okay.
Similar issues.
And you have to layer in the social context of LA back then. You had these population booms in certain areas, right? Like Westlake.
Yeah, huge density increases.
And people were packing into these older buildings, often wood frame tenements, way beyond what they were designed for. We found reports mentioning like 75 people, adults and kids, crammed into just 9 single rooms on one floor.
75 people in 9 rooms on one floor. That's staggering.
It's the perfect storm, isn't it? You've got highly combustible construction, these open shafts ready to spread fire vertically, and then this incredible density of people.
Every one of those buildings was just waiting for a bad wire, drop cigarette, anything. Catastrophe points, basically.
Yeah, and just telling people, be careful, wasn't going to cut it. The buildings themselves were the problem. They were fundamentally unsafe in a fire scenario.
The city had to act. They couldn't just let this keep happening. There was this like moral imperative and an operational one for the fire department. These fires were killers.
But how do you fix potentially thousands of old buildings, especially when the owners might not have the money or the will to do massive, expensive upgrades? That was the real challenge.
The pressure built up, though. After Ponet Square, 19 dead. We can't ignore that. So the legislative wheels started turning. Pretty fast, actually. 1971.
And the law they passed became known simply enough as the Ponet Square Ordinance.
Now, this is important, especially for you, the listener, out on the street. Maybe you hear veterans call them Ponet doors. It's easy to think it's named after someone, maybe the councilman who proposed it, or an engineer.
Yeah, that's a common mix-up, but no.
It's named directly after the tragedy, the Ponet Square Hotel fire. That's the origin. We need to bust that myth right now. It anchors the rule to the event.
Which is powerful, right?
Yeah.
A constant reminder of why it exists. And the key thing about this ordinance, it was retroactive.
Meaning it applied to buildings already standing. Specifically, pre-1947 tenements. Buildings that could be decades old already.
Think about the scale of that, forcing changes on potentially thousands of existing structures across the city, a huge undertaking.
The goal was laser-focused. Life safety. Stop that rapid fire spread into the hallways. Prevent another Ponet Square. Force compartmentalization.
But like we said, the economics were tricky. The city couldn't just say, tear them all down or everyone installs million-dollar systems. They had to offer options.
Right. So property owners got basically 3 choices for compliance. 1, put in a full automatic sprinkler system.
The gold standard, really. But expensive. Very expensive.
2, enclose the stairwells and, crucially, upgrade the apartment doors opening onto those corridors to meet a specific fire rating. These became the Ponet doors.
The more affordable path for many.
And option 3, demolish the building. Which, you know, if you own profitable housing in LA, probably not your first choice.
Definitely not. So let's talk about why sprinklers, while great, were such a hurdle.
Yeah, the cost is just staggering. We looked at similar situations like in San Francisco around the early 2000s, retrofitting an older, maybe 16-unit building with sprinklers.
The numbers were like $113,000 on the low end, up to over $300,000. And that's then. Imagine today's costs.
Plus, it's not just the pipes and heads. You've got relocating tenants, maybe upgrading water mains, permits. It's a massive project.
Huge economic and political barrier. So for many landlords, option 2 looked a lot more feasible.
The door upgrade, the Ponet door solution. But this wasn't just like slapping on a thicker piece of plywood.
No, this was specific. The ordinance demanded doors that met a certain fire rating standard. Now, nailing down the exact wording from the 71 code can be tricky decades later, but subsequent actions and related codes make the performance standard clear.
Okay, so what was that standard? What makes a door a Ponet door operationally?
The key requirement is a 20-minute rated assembly. That's the number you need burned into your brain. 20 minutes.
What does that mean, assembly? Not just the door slab itself.
Exactly. It's the whole system. The door itself has to be constructed to resist fire for 20 minutes. But just as important are the frame it sits in and the hardware.
Okay, what hardware?
3 critical things. 1, a self-closing mechanism, usually spring hinges or one of those hydraulic arm closers you see. The door must close automatically, no being propped open.
Makes sense. Keeps the barrier intact.
2, positive latching hardware. The latch bolt has to physically engage the strike plate and hold the door shut, even under the pressure and warping caused by intense heat. If it pops open, it's useless.
Got it. Self-closing, positive latching, and the door itself.
Rated to resist burning through or failing structurally for at least 20 minutes under standard test conditions. Resisting heat, resisting warping. It's a system.
And history showed why this level of protection was so vital, right? It wasn't just theory.
Tragically, no. Just 3 years after Ponet Square in 1973, you had the Stratford Hotel fire. 25 people died in that one.
Another corridor fire.
Yes. And investigators found the fire in the hallway got so hot, so fast, it literally burned through the thin, cheap, non-rated apartment doors in just a few minutes.
A few minutes.
Once those doors failed, the fire was into the rooms, the hallway was completely lost. Instant catastrophe. Trapped everyone.
So the Ponet Ordinance, with its 20-minute door requirement, was a direct engineered response to that specific failure, the corridor vulnerability.
Precisely. In these old buildings, you can't always rely on the walls or floors being perfectly fire-resistive. The main escape route, the hallway, is the weak point. That rated door turns each apartment from a potential fuel source feeding the hallway fire
Into a sealed box, a compartment.
Buying maybe 20 minutes of time. And on the fireground, time is everything.
Which brings us right back to the operational side, back to Proby Reyes standing outside that burning building. He's done the history lesson, now he needs the practical application. Where does he expect to find these doors? And crucially, how does he know if one is actually working?
Okay, location first. Size up 101. You're looking for older, multi-story buildings, apartments, hotels, typically built before, say, the late 1940s, because those were the targets of the retroactive mandate.
Usually 3 stories or more, right?
Generally, yes, and concentrated in the denser, older parts of the city. The key is that the ordinance applies to the doors of the individual dwelling units that open onto those common hallways or corridors used for escape.
So not necessarily every single door in the building, but the ones protecting the escape path.
That's the focus. And this applies even if the building claims to be fireproof. We talked about the Bryson apartments earlier.
Yeah, built in 1912, reinforced concrete, supposedly fireproof.
But even the Bryson records show had work done in '76, specifically to enclose staircases, add doors to corridors. And later they had to comply with another similar rule, the Dorothy May Ordinance.
So even a concrete shell isn't safe if the fire can just race through hallways and up open stairs.
Exactly right. That's a critical takeaway for you. The building material helps structural integrity, but the Ponet door, or its equivalent, protects the life safety within the egress system. It provides the containment.
Containment, which gets us back to that 20 minutes. That's the chance the captain was talking about. It dictates the whole initial strategy.
Absolutely. Let's game this out. 2 scenarios. Engine 10 arrives, fire showing from apartment 212.
Okay. Scenario A, the Ponet door on 212 holds.
Right. It's properly rated. It's closed. The latch is holding. What does that mean?
It means the fire, the heat, the smoke, it's staying mostly inside unit 212. The door is doing its job, compartmentalizing.
And the impact on the corridor.
The hallway stays relatively clear, maybe some smoke seepage, but it's tenable. People can still potentially get out from other units.
And for your crew, for Reyes' crew.
It's huge. It means they have a safe staging area right outside the fire unit. They can stretch their line, mask up, plan the entry, do searches nearby, all knowing their immediate path isn't compromised. It buys them that crucial window to make a targeted attack.
It contains the problem. Now, flip it.
Okay, scenario B. The Ponet door fails, or maybe it wasn't even there, replaced with a cheap hollow core door years ago, or it's propped open with a wedge.
What happens now? Fire's roaring in 212.
Disaster. The fire, heat, smoke just instantly blows out into the hallway. The corridor immediately becomes part of the fire problem. It's untenable.
It becomes a horizontal chimney feeding into the vertical chimney of the stairwell.
Exactly. You get that rapid spread, potentially cutting off escape for anyone above or further down the hall. That 5 foot per second vertical spread kicks in again.
And for the entry team.
Everything changes. It's not a room and contents fire anymore. It's a major corridor fire. The risk level skyrockets. Your attack plan shifts instantly. Maybe you can't even make it down the hall to the original fire unit. Your priority might become just holding the fire at the stairwell, protecting egress above. It's a completely different fight, like the captain said.
From routine entry to potential Mayday situation. Just because of one failed door.
Okay, so if that door is the absolute linchpin, how do you know if it's likely to hold before you commit? What are the visual tells? You can't just trust the building's age.
Excellent question.
Yeah.
You need rapid assessment skills. First, look for the obvious killer. Is the self-closer missing, broken, or jammed? See a wedge under the door. Red flag. That door will not perform as rated.
Got to close on its own and latch.
Second, check the frame. Is it busted up from previous forcible entries? Big gaps, poor repairs. Fire loves gaps. Smoke goes right through. The whole assembly's integrity matters.
Makes sense. What about the door itself?
Does it look right? Ponet-compliant doors are typically solid core. They feel heavy. If it looks suspiciously thin, like a cheap interior bedroom door, it's probably not rated. Trust your gut, but look for substance.
Okay. Closer frame, door substance. Anything else?
Yeah, the ultimate tell from the outside. Heat and smoke conditions at that specific door. Is smoke puffing hard around the edges? Is the paint blistering or the wood charring significantly, but the door is still holding tight?
So seeing some heat effect isn't necessarily bad as long as it's contained.
Exactly. If it's scorched but shut tight, keeping the worst of it inside, that's your silent confirmation. The Ponet door is doing its job. It's buying you that time. You likely have your 20 minutes starting, well, whenever the fire reaches the door.
Got it. That connects all the dots. History, code, mechanics, and now the actual fireground read.
Right. Knowing about the Ponet Door Ordinance isn't just like firefighter trivia. It's fundamental to your size up in these older LA buildings. It tells you the design defense mechanism is compartmentalization at the unit door. That door is the intended firewall.
The final thin line, you called it earlier.
And its condition dictates everything about your next move. Speed, risk, tactics, it's all connected.
So let's bring it back to Ray's. Engine 10, the fire. He's done the mental investigation now. He recognizes the building type, old, multi-story, downtown. He knows this is prime Ponet Ordinance territory.
To Captain's words, blood and fire, they make sense now. It's the legacy of PonetSquare, of Stratford.
He understands that door isn't just wood. It's supposed to be a 20-minute rated assembly. It's hardware. It's time.
He's ready.
The crew masks up, grabs the tools, prepares to force entry if needed. Ray as quickly scans the adjacent doors. He sees one, Unit 214 maybe. It's scorched, blackened near the top, but it's holding firm.
Self-closer looks intact. Latch seems engaged.
Yep. Heavy wood looks solid. It's containing the heat pushing from inside 212, preventing lateral spread down the corridor towards 214.
That's his confirmation. The system, at least on that door, is working. It's bought them the margin they need. The corridor is likely tenable for the entry.
Exactly. That silent ally is doing its job. They can make the push into 212 with more confidence, knowing the immediate environment is relatively protected.
And that's the payoff, right? The technical knowledge translates directly into tactical advantage. Knowing about PonetSquare gives Reyes an edge. Uncertainty becomes calculated risk. He knows the fire is likely contained, for now. Aggressive action is possible.
And the final lesson clicks into place. For Reyes, and for you listening, this isn't just another reg to memorize for a test.
No, it's more than that.
The FireCode, pieces like the Ponet Door Ordinance, they're memorials. Written in response to tragedy, they honor the 19 who died at Ponet Square, the 25 at the Stratford, all the others lost in similar fires.
It's that silent partner on the fireground, the one buying you the minutes you need to make the rescue, to get water on the fire. Know the ordinance, know the building type, respect what that door is supposed to do.
It's your first line of defense and the victim's last line sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. The code truly is a story written in blood and fire. You have to know the story to read the building correctly.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, we've traced the Ponet Square Ordinance from the ashes of the 1970 tragedy, understood why corridor protection failed so badly in those old tenements, defined what a Ponet door actually is, that 20-minute rated, self-closing, positive-latching assembly, and seen how its presence or absence dictates everything on the fireground.
But there's a crucial coda here. The code is only paper. Its effectiveness depends entirely on enforcement and, maybe even more importantly, maintenance. Meaning, these safety features get defeated all the time. We mentioned the Dorothy May Apartments fire earlier, another tragic incident.
Yeah.
Investigations there found that compliant Ponet doors had been illegally wedged open.
So the protection was there, but bypassed, circumvented.
Exactly. Defeating the entire purpose, negating the lesson paid for in lives back at Ponet Square. Complacency, or sometimes deliberate disabling of safety devices, is a constant threat.
Which brings us to a final thought, something for you to chew on as you go through your careers. Think back to those 3 compliance options in 1971.
Demolition, sprinklers, or the doors?
Right. Demolition was rarely viable. Sprinklers, we know, are incredibly expensive to retrofit, hundreds of thousands of dollars, easily. A huge barrier then. Still a huge barrier now in many cities.
which leaves the doors. The most common, most cost-effective solution chosen by many landlords.
So here's the provocation. We still struggle nationally with mandating costly sprinkler retrofits. If that's often off the table economically and politically, how much more critical does it become to ensure that the cheaper, fundamental life safety measure hashing, the properly functioning, 20-minute rated self-closing, positive latching compartment door is universally installed, rigorously inspected, and meticulously maintained?
Yeah. How many more fires, how many more close calls or tragedies have to happen because a simple, relatively inexpensive safety device like a door closer was broken or a latch didn't catch or someone wedged the door open?
Is that basic level of compartmentalization treated with the same seriousness as a $500,000 sprinkler system? It needs to be. Because your awareness, your size up, your quick check of that door, that might be the only thing preventing the next story written in blood and fire.